Opinions expressed in this episode are personal. They do not necessarily reflect the views of this streaming platform.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Be Diverse. I am your host, Andrew Stoute. This episode is dedicated to all my loved ones who have supported me through this journey. Today, our topic is dangers of not hiring a diverse workforce. I felt like this was a great topic because of the title of my podcast, but also my interest of everything and anything diverse. It's a super important topic, and I'm so glad to delve into it today. My guest today is Ashley Phiiipps. Welcome to the show, Ashley. I am so pleased to have you on today.
Yeah, hi, Andrew. I'm really excited. I can't wait to have this conversation with you today. Thanks so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. How are things with you? What's new in your world? What's going on? Give us the deets. Give us everything.
Yeah, I am loving summertime. Hopefully, like other people, we live in the mountains. We've been canoeing and hiking and just enjoying all the beautiful sunshine and just getting outdoors on the weekends, and we're having a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is all part of summer, right? Getting outdoors.
That's right.
I don't know how it is in your area, but here in Canada, when it's summer, we enjoy it, because winter we pretty much hibernate because there's lots of snow and lots of cold. So we go out when we have to in the winter time. Or in the summertime, you can't keep us inside.
That's right. It's better to be outside. It feels like a recharge every time you go outside for the weekend. I can't get enough of it right now.
Right. It's funny because I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were talking about when we were kids and how we have to adult now, because when summertime we used to love. I mean, I used to spend my day at the community pool up the street from my house. I would get up just in time. I'd get up a little bit later, sleep in. You have breakfast and you head to the pool at noon when it opened. You stay there till 5 o'clock when it would close for dinner and adult swim. You go home, have supper, have a quick bite to eat, and you were back there at 6:30, there till 9 o'clock. You went home, changed, and then everybody was outside playing tag or whatever, just kind of hanging outside. But that was the fun of the summertime. Now, we can't. We can't, as we're adults, we can't spend all day in the pool, and we can't do that stuff. We have to adult these days.
That's right. I used to roller skate all the time as a kid, and I'd be outside all day long roller skating. And now I get to go to Target and the grocery store. It's not as great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the big thrill. Like, oh, I get to get out today. I get to go out on my own, and I get to go to Walmart. Ooh.
Yeah, and I have to budget too. I can't even buy anything I want when I'm there, even though I'm an adult. They finally said, when I'm an adult, I'm buying that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad to hear you're enjoying your summer. I'm glad to hear that things are going well on your end. Before we begin, I always have a fun, thought-provoking question to ask my guests to get things going. Are you ready for yours today, Ashley?
I am. I'm really curious about this, Andrew. I'm really excited. This is going to be cool.
So your question today is, if you could have a lifetime supply of anything, what would it be and why?
Oh no, too much of anything is not a good thing. A lifetime supply. Oh my gosh. I feel like I should pick something responsible. We just talked about being adults, and I feel so much better.
You can pick something fun. It's okay. It's okay. We're talking amongst all of our friends listening today, so you can pick something fun.
Be completely honest of the two things that popped into my head first.
You absolutely. I would love it. It's probably the best.
We have this mix of childhood Ashley and adult Ashley going on. Ashley said gasoline.
Okay.
And childhood Ashley said popcorn. That is what popped into my head the most. I would eat popcorn every day if I could. I was like, oh, popcorn, that's what I want. But a lifetime supply, I feel like fuel is more practical. And I would also have a lot more money in my pocket too if it was fuel. I don't know what gas is like in Canada, but it
Yeah.
is not cheap these days.
No, it's not cheap. It's not cheap here either. Well, I love the fact that you gave both versions. I love that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anybody would probably say in the adulting realm these days, gasoline for sure. But I love that you went in the childhood realm. I am a popcorn fanatic since
Yeah.
I've been young, and it's something that I look forward to, especially when we go to the movies. That's the first thing.
Oh
And
yeah.
actually, every once in a while, depending on where we go for grabbing a bite to eat for supper, we'll stop in a movie cinema and I'll just walk in and I will get a bag of popcorn from the cinema and take it home with us. If we're going to watch a movie at home or even just watch shows at home, like, why
Yeah.
not? What better way to do that than have movie theater popcorn? Like,
Yeah. You're my kind of person,
yeah.
Andrew. Like we are so on the same page with that.
Like, you know what? It's funny because you can make popcorn at home, but it just doesn't taste as good as the movie theater.
Correct. You can. And I even have an air popper. Like I'm bougie with it. It's not just the
Yeah,
microwave in the bag. Like I
yeah,
actually have the whole setup. And
yeah,
you're right. It's still not the same.
yeah. Same here. We have a popcorn machine here. Throw it in
Hmm.
and make it from, but it just never, it tastes good. And even if you buy a bag of popcorn from the store, it's still good, but it's just not the movie theater
Yeah.
popcorn,
I'm
no
so
matter what
glad
you
you
do.
get it.
Yeah,
I'm so
yeah.
glad you get it.
I totally get it. Well, thanks for having so much fun with me. Actually, I really appreciate that. Why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about you, your story, and your why?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I'm getting into it here. Hi everybody. I'm Ashley Phillips. I'm really excited to be chatting with Andrew today, and I hope today helps you in a career pivot. Is kind of the culminating piece to it, and how that fits into a diverse workforce. But I started out after college as a high school social studies teacher, believe it or not, and I did that. And there was a lot of things that I liked about it, and kind of have been explaining it to people is about year 5, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is for me anymore. There seem to be quite a few issues that I just can't seem to overcome, like too many blockers, too many barriers, too many feelings of being depleted and burnout. And financially, it was taking its toll having that as my career. And so I switched. By year 7, I was able to get a break, and we can talk more about how exactly I did that. But I was able to get a break, and I got into tech, and from there started at a very early entry level role, and over the last 10 years built up to being a vice president of a sales enablement revenue operations team. So that's what I've done career wise. I made the switch and I loved it immediately, Andrew. Like I couldn't get enough of this new lifestyle. I got out of debt. I had more time for my family. I had more time for my friends. I had healthier relationships. Like everything seemed to be changing as this catalyst of changing my career. So I started writing it down and ultimately ended up writing a book. We'll talk more about that later too. But
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea of writing that is to simply share the wealth. I want other people to find kind of what I'll describe as the liberation and the happiness that I found in changing my career. And I want that for other teachers. I want that for other people that are feeling, stuck or downtrodden. And this economy is really tough right now. It's hard to change your job. It's hard to get a
Mm-hmm.
job, especially if you've been laid off. So I understand that. So I wanted a tool or a resource that would help people.
Hmm. So much stuff that I want to pack in here from what you said. First of all, I love when you said share the wealth. So I'm very much. You just said 2 seconds ago that you loved our thinking on the popcorn. I love your thinking on sharing the wealth. I'm very much someone like that, especially in business and in work and in the workplace. I feel like there's so many people that want to. You want to get, you want to move up and you want to grow and you want to create opportunities for yourself, but there's so many more opportunities to work with other people and to collaborate, whether it be in the workplace or whether it be in business or being an entrepreneur and collaborating with other entrepreneurs. There's so many opportunities for that, and just a lot of people don't feel like they need to, or that they it's a good idea because of the um I'm doing air quotes as for people who can't see, but for the competition, like,
Yeah.
we're competing against each other. When, if, why not work with somebody? So at work, why not team with your coworker and the both of you are successful? And why not team with other businesses and both of you are successful? Like you just said, we have a tough economy. So why not help your neighbor, help somebody that you've met, somebody on LinkedIn? Why not help that person, collaborate with them, and the both of you are successful? So I just love that. And the other thing that kind of caught my attention was the fact that you were talking about getting out. It's been a theme for so many people that I talk to. Teachers is one. And the amazing thing for me is HR. There's a lot of people that are getting out of HR and they're changing and going on their own. And it's amazing to see it. I knew it was happening, and I knew it was happening for teachers, but having this conversation and having more and more conversations and hearing it, it's becoming so real to me.
Yeah, I think the foundation of what you said there is something that I encourage all people to do, but especially the teachers that I mentor. So yeah, I mean, I have the book. Like, there's no, I don't want to hide it. Like, the book is for sale, right? It's one thing that I had to put together, and it cost me money, and so the book is definitely something that takes that that I do ask that people pay $35 to get, but all the mentoring, all the coaching that comes from it, I do that because I want to give back. I don't,
Mm,
there's not a DM in LinkedIn that I don't turn down to help. And I
right,
encourage them, like, hey, this is how you can, like, to your point, this is how you can network. You should work smarter, not harder,
right,
and start to build who are the people I can collaborate with. I think sometimes people feel stuck, Andrew, that they don't exactly know who to reach out to. They don't necessarily know what working looks like together. And because it is or can be highly competitive,
right.
there's maybe a little bit of fear of I'll be rejected. And so that's one of the things I work on with teachers is just, and not everyone's going to say yes, and that's okay. That's their choice, right? So move on to somebody
Mm,
who will say yes, and then
right.
work with those people and network in that way. And so I'm with you on that. It's always better to me to work in groups. I always used to tell my students, like, more brains are better than one. I was a big advocate of group work, partner work. You want to do it solo, cool. But you want to fill it out with a couple of
Mm,
people and share, like, you all still have to take the same test, but you can
absolutely.
prepare together.
Right,
You don't have to be alone.
right. I have a motto or a mantra that I've developed since the start of 2024, and that is I'm not afraid to hear the word no and say the word no. And not that I was afraid of those two, of no, in those two situations before, but I feel like a lot of people are, like you said, are afraid to ask people because they're afraid to hear the word no. And
Hmm.
some people are afraid to say no because they're people pleasers and they
Yeah.
want to, and they don't know when to say no. So it's been something that I've had in my head, and it's been my mantra for 2024, and it's been super beneficial and helpful for me.
Yeah. No, I love it. The takeaway is you have to take care of yourself. If the right thing to do for you is to be bold and ask, then go for it. And if you're the person being asked, if the right thing for your mental health, your sanity, the space in your time, your boundaries, whatever it is, if saying no is the right thing for you, be empowered to say that just as much.
Mm. And I love when you're saying the right thing. So we're talking about diversity issues and why they're so important. One of the reasons why I feel like it's so important. So I took a course when I years ago in diversity inclusion, and in the course they had a topic where, or an assignment where we we had a picture of somebody, and the assignment was say exactly what you see in this picture. So it was a person. You couldn't tell if they were a man or a woman. You couldn't tell if they were homeless or not. You couldn't tell if they were under a bridge or on a highway. And so you had to kind of write what your feelings were. And that was the first thing that kind of got my attention as far as diversity inclusion is the assumption part of people assuming that you know we're someone is in a certain situation, or that someone doesn't want to go to work, or that someone is a certain ethnicity, so that's the way that they're thinking, or that they always believe, or the way that they do things. So that was kind of like my first inkling. And then it made me kind of think, Ashley, of a lot of things, and especially my childhood. So I'll share with you, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners have heard me talk about this. So I grew up in my parents were of mixed race. So my father was from Barbados, he was colored, and my mother was white, and she was from Montreal, Quebec, so she was French Canadian. So living that, it was different because their parenting was different, because they grew up a certain way from their parents, so it was different. The food was different as far as what they specialized. And it kind of, this topic, or this course and assignment that I did, made me think back of some of the stuff that I saw when I was younger. So, having a friend coming home from school and, saying, "Oh, hey, Johnny, this is my mom." And, they didn't really say anything. They didn't make any bad looks, but they kind of had this kind of confused look on their face, like, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
that's his mom? I don't get it." So, you kind of think about that. I probably noticed it when I was younger, but, just kind of, I guess, taking the, doing diversity inclusion courses, it kind of has opened up my mind and thinking about all those things. And then now future, and then looking at, it's helped me in certain situations and things that I have seen and gone throughout my career.
Yeah, I when you're speaking, I could think of, talking about and checking your internal biases, right? And that takes a lot of work. Like, I know there are a lot of times where I sit and I'm in, whether it's a work situation or a social situation, wherever I am, there are times where you have a gut reaction. And then there are times that I find myself, I have to sit with, why did I have that reaction? Because sometimes it's just innate, right? It's not like you meant to do anything mean or derogatory, or
Right.
It might have even been a positive one. Who
Right.
knows? Like, you sit with whatever the situation was, but checking those internal biases that we have are really important. And I think in order to make it so where you can understand at a deeper level and relate to more people, more backgrounds, you do have to do the reflection work on that. And so as you were talking, that's what I think of. There have been times in my life where I've had to been like, why did I think that? Like, why was that where my brain went first? Like, what was that all about? And so, like I said, sometimes it's been good, sometimes it's been not so good.
Right.
But sitting there and thinking with that definitely leads to a path of understanding. But it does take the work. Like you said, like looking at that picture and checking what did you write down, and checking your own internal bias is really important.
Absolutely. So as we talk about this, I want to get your thoughts. What are the risks of not having a diverse workplace?
Yeah, like we were talking in prep, like we're not gonna like go into why it's important. Like, it's 2024, Andrew. Like, we know it's important. Like, that's why you have this amazing podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Like we can all agree on that. But to me, what happens when you don't have that diversity, and I don't want to minimize any of what I consider maybe some of the core issues of why the diversity movement and equity and inclusion began in the workforce. I don't want to minimize anything, but I do think that it's okay to expand that into other types of backgrounds. And so when I look at companies that don't have a diverse workforce, I do see that they struggle more in the market than not, and not that I'm, this glorified expert and I've been in business for, 45 years and I've seen it all. That's not me, right? But I have been in schools and campuses of different types over the years. I have been in, 5 different companies over 10 years. And businesses that lack diversity don't do as well, flat out, in my mind. And I think that there's a lot of ways when I say they don't do as well. I think that revenue wise, if your sales team isn't diverse and reflective of the market you're selling to, you're not relating to your buyer. If your customer success or account management function, whatever you want to call it, if they don't reflect what your customer looks like, you're not going to relate and you're not going to do as well, right? And you can say that kind of in all aspects of the company, and you end up kind of creating an echo chamber for yourself. I think if you're the business leaders, if you're whether it's the board, the VC, the PE firm level, or the C-suite level, or even like the higher managers, whether you have, EVPs or senior vice presidents, whatever that looks like where you are, when they don't make an effort to have a diverse workforce that is equitable to different types of backgrounds, because it needs to look different depending upon who's coming to you to be hired. I do think you are less successful. I think you end up having this echo chamber of, we have the same kind of background, the same kind of work experience, the same levels of expertise, supposedly. And it's like, okay, so you have a whole bunch of people that know that one thing. What about everything else that makes up our globe, our society, our markets, our products, our solutions? And I don't think they do as well. I've worked at some that are diverse and are great, and I worked at some that weren't, and it was like, I don't want to be here anymore. So
I love what you said, because I feel like, so I always say to people, or I always say that, the minute that we are afraid, or the minute that we stop learning something or say that we know it all, I feel is when we become hoodwinked. So, we're talking about diversity and inclusion. There's so many different aspects of it that we need to continue to learn. And if we continue to learn them, and they're going to be ever changing, there's always going to be stuff that's going to come up. So if we continue to learn it, then I think we will be at better workplaces, and people as well in our regular environments. I think will be better if we continue to learn it. But like I said, as soon as we stop, and as soon as we say, oh, I took that'd be like me saying, I took a course in diversity and inclusion, I have a certificate in it, I don't need to know anything else now. Like, that would be silly of me to say. I'm continuously learning. Any articles on leadership or diversity inclusion or anything, or any chance I have of having a conversation with somebody about this stuff, I'll take it any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. It is ongoing work. So sometimes it's not the easiest work to do, but it is critical. I mean, I think that without addressing it in your company, I think companies that refuse to make moves, or companies that maybe just give it lip service, say they want to do stuff, or maybe put it in their plan because they feel like they need to, or they have to, or they should, but then don't act on it. That you're not doing the right. I mean, that's all for naught. You're just flat out not doing the right thing if all you're doing is documenting it in a business plan, but not actually doing anything to ensure that you are hiring a diverse workforce.
Right, absolutely. So now that everybody's listening, now that we know what the risks are, how do we address those situations? Because I know that one of the things is that people are afraid to speak up because they feel like that they're. I always say, we want to be in situations where we are seen, heard, valued, and understood. But there's a lot of situations where people aren't. So how do we go about doing that?
So this can be tough, Andrew. Like, I do understand. I do have an answer for you. I do have some stories of personal experience I can tell, but I want to front load it with saying, like, this is really hard for some people, especially if you're in a really, I don't want to say toxic environment, but maybe not the most supportive environment. There's a spectrum of how unsupportive you are so everybody's work environment is going to be different. But to me, the solution and what I've had to do is be really brave and speak up. It's the people that are in the role. It's their responsibility to do it. And I say responsibility, that's a big word. And I believe in that. So for example, when I was an individual contributor, I'd try, I'd be part of employee resource groups on diversity. I'd be part of, programs and teams that wanted it. But sometimes that doesn't make the impact you want, right? They're like, oh yeah, we're going to let the employees get together. Cool. And you don't feel like you get anywhere. And so as I became more of like a director level, more of a vice president level, where I'm in charge of hiring, I decided to be that change. And so I got, some of it's a little bit of luck. I'll tell you, I got lucky. One of the HR leaders I worked for was very invested in making our company more diverse. The company was not diverse at all. I'm sure it's business. You can close your eyes and see exactly what I'm talking about when I say there was lack of diversity. And he was awesome. He let me do something different. I went and I found a different recruiting firm that found non-traditional backgrounds and put these folks through boot camps for a couple of different roles. And that's who I hired. I didn't hire the same type of person that had been coming through the doors of the company. And so, but that had to be approved because that was a different budget and it was a different recruiting contract. And so
Mm,
I did have to find an ally within my company. But we worked together, and I actually hired a couple of folks in a different way to get different backgrounds, to get more diversity in terms of
mm,
orientation and race, ethnicity, and ability, background from experience. And we brought them in, and I thought we were a better workplace for it. And
mm,
so but it is my job to speak up. It's not always easy. There's a lot of times I am the only woman in a boardroom
mm,
and,
mm,
it's like sweaty palms and you're like, okay, but you have to speak up, right? You have to, even though it's difficult. And so I do look to leadership to help solve that. And I look to leaders to also not let those employee resource groups just be something that the employees do again, because it's on paper and we say, oh, we care about it because we do this. If they're coming up with ideas and you're not implementing them, if you're not acting on them as the leaders, you're to me you're not doing part of your job. Leadership is meant to address those things.
mm. I love when you're saying speak up. I agree 100%. I feel like there's got to be a buy-in as well. So I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and they are trying to um, get some more diversity into their company, and she's dealing with a lot of with the leadership team of the company, and she was telling me that it's taken a while for them
Hmm.
to. She's had several meetings with them, probably, and she's been there for a few years now, and she's been having meetings with the leadership team there for probably a good 6 months, and it's just like the last meeting they have finally have a little bit of a buy-in. So she says, I'm not expecting the world to change. She says, I just needed them to buy in and say, okay, we're let's continue the conversation of this. We're in, let's continue the conversation of how do we do this and how do we get things going. That's what was important to her. But before that, she wasn't getting it at all. They were kind of like, well, why do we need this, or why is it so important, or what have you. So it can be hard. It's hard to
Hmm.
get people to understand why it's important for everybody to buy in.
Yeah, there's a tool that whether I'm coaching a sales rep on making a sale, whether I'm coaching a teacher on trying to build a network, or even this woman you're talking about when things don't happen overnight and you have to feel like you're continuously repeating the same thing over and over, which is obnoxious to you when you
Mm-hmm.
know it's a good thing, it's beneficial, and you're like, and I have to explain myself again, and you want to just like knock your head against a wall feels a little more pleasant than having another meeting about this.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you are with that, but the tip is, and what I tell people is use professional persistence.
Mm,
Things don't happen overnight in business. They just don't. There's too much money at stake. There's usually people way like they're not operating in the level I am. They're way above me, whether it's, the stockholders and the shareholders that have certain types of equity that are better and bigger than my types of equity. I mean, there's all kinds of people that are at this higher level, and there's just too much at stake for businesses to move fast. Even
mm,
smaller startups, it's
mm,
hard for them to move truly really fast on some things, even if they might say
mm,
we're agile, and that's all great. But keep in mind professional persistence. It may be obnoxious to have to stay with it for you. But Andrew, like you said, if you really care about it and you're passionate about it, sticking with it, you
mm,
can't go wrong if you're trying to help other people, especially
mm,
if they don't look like you, sound like you, have the background as you, because being diverse in your workforce it is the right thing to do in my mind.
mm,
So keep that professional persistence to it.
mm,
It's okay if people say no, but that doesn't mean you have to give up. That's just a no for right now on some things. Keep at it.
mm. I love that professional persistence. Do you have like, I'm sure the listeners would want to know or want to hear, like, do you have an example or a story of where you use that?
Yeah, this podcast is a really good example. I've been really happy and surprised in the last few months of people who have given me a platform to talk about
Mm,
how valuable I think teachers are outside of the classroom. And,
mhm,
I really do think that teaching is a foundational pillar of our society. Like, don't get me wrong, we need great teachers. We
mhm,
really do.
mhm,
But if we're not going to pay them, if we're not going to give them resources, if we're not going to support them to the point that I've talked to teachers having heart palpitations and losing their hair, I've talked to teachers who are borderline living in poverty, like that's not okay.
mm,
And if that's your situation, it's okay to make a change in your life. You can leave
mm,
teaching behind if that's what you're looking at, right?
mm,
I know there are happy teachers and that delights me, right? So I just want to say that too. Like,
mm,
we need good teachers. But when you talk about professional persistence, just recently it's been trying to get a platform for that because people don't want to hear that
mm,
I'm encouraging some teachers to leave. And so, this is a yes. Like, I'm so glad you said yes. We're on this podcast, but there have been plenty that are like, we don't want to discuss that at all.
mm,
And
mm,
so something just as simple as trying to get the word out to help people and show their support is an
mm,
example. But yeah, I mean, in sales, like I've got stories galore where, if we get a lead coming in from marketing and there's been a no and a drag your feet and a drag your feet, and it's taken 9 months to close the deal. But
mm,
that's been professional persistence, right? To meet that revenue target. So there's stories like that. And I think just the biggest example I can give you is my career change. Like I said, I wanted
mm.
to leave teaching in year 5,
Right.
and I didn't until in the middle of or at the start of year 7. That's some professional persistence. That was a
Mm,
multi-year journey of
right.
reflecting on why am I unhappy? What's going to make me happy?
Right.
Now that I know what's going to make me happy, how do I make those changes? And putting that all
Mhm,
together
mhm,
took years, right? And
mhm,
then there was the decision, and then it still took six to 9 months of actually getting the job when I was like, I'm done, I'm ready to change. That was another 9 months of professional persistence to get a new job.
mm. I am a firm believer that leadership, a lot of people have this mindset that a leader has to be the leader of an organization, and that's not my mindset. So leaders to me come in different ways, shapes, or forms. So yes, you can be a leader of an organization, but you can be a leader of as a coach on a sports team. You can be a leader sitting beside a coworker. You can be a leader for that coworker. You can I talk a lot about parent leadership because I feel parents are leaders to their children. They're molding their children into the people that they want to be, or they want them to be, or that they feel that would be successful in society, in our world. And I believe that teachers are leaders as well, because they are teaching your kids when they are not with you. They're teaching and they're molding your kids as well, to help them to develop not just the learning skills and the school smarts, but also the to teaching them to be to have that creativity, to be innovative, and the importance of being seen, heard, valued, and understood. So I love that you said teachers. I am a huge fan of teachers. I have lots of friends who are teachers, and I admire them. And I tell them all the time. And I was happy to have you on here today because I, I'd be a hypocrite if I said no to you and have my podcast be called "Let's Be Diverse," because my goal is to have one of my goals is to have diverse conversations with diverse guests. So if I'd have said no to you, like I said, that would be super super wrong of me to do.
Yeah, I love it. And I love your thoughts, Andrew, on leadership. There's actually like a call out in the book, and I got to give a shout out to the graphic designer that I found. Her name's Mel Wise. She's incredible. She blew me away how beautiful the inside of this book is. The book looked terrible as I was typing it up in my little visuals. It looked so bad. It was so bad. And she did an incredible job with it. And one of the things she did is she had a call out. She surprised me. It's really pretty, and it's in a specific chapter, but it actually
Mm,
says, I wrote, like, you can lead from any seat.
mm,
Leadership, because I'm encouraging teachers to start honing in their leadership skills and thinking about, to your point, all the different ways you can be a leader, because a job title is not leadership.
Mm.
right? Your actions and what you do for people is leadership. And so I'm that's one of the pieces of advice that I give is how are you demonstrating that you're a leader in your role? You don't need a job title to do it. What are you doing? And I tell people you can lead from any seat.
Right. Absolutely.
So I love what you said about it.
Oh, I appreciate that. So yeah, you mentioned your book. So
hmm
so what
hmm
advice do you have for teachers and employers when it comes to including teachers to diversity plans?
Yeah, it's twofold. We'll start with the teachers, and I did have a subset of beta readers who had nothing to do with teaching read it. And he's like, wow, I learned a lot about my personal brand and building one. I don't have one. I didn't
Mm,
know that I needed one. And
wow.
it's like, so you said teachers, but I actually used your same checklists for myself. And I updated and I have a new way to build a network, right?
Right.
And they're not teachers. They just substituted teacher with whatever job title they have. And so I do think that there are plenty of things in there that would help a non-teacher, but you're right. I am focused on helping that group just because personally, that's who I'm passionate about helping
Yep.
with my background.
Yep.
Um, but I basically walk them through a 3-step journey. It's one of those, I'll give a shout out to my friend Shannon, who helped beta read and test the book for me. And she said, Ashley, as I read it, it was great. You know how in the beginning of a book, like a fantasy book, there's always a map of the world that you're looking at, the country, this fictional place that doesn't exist. They give you like a visual. And I was like,
Mm,
yeah. She's like, you need one. And I was like, you're right. I do, Shannon. Like, incredible. Like, that's so genius. And so I've been referring to it now ever since then. Is the book is basically the roadmap, and there is a visual of a roadmap that walks teachers through this journey. And
mm,
it starts with the journey out. Teachers that are on the fence about leaving and not quite sure, we address that first. Like, is leaving right for you? You may do the reflection work and think, you know what, this isn't so bad. There are some things that I need to tweak, some things that I need to probably address, but overall, it's still for me, and that's cool. There are teachers also that are like, I was done 6 months ago and I need help now. And so I'm like, well, then skip chapter 1 and get right to chapter 2. But the first section is called the journey out. And it's a lot of the reflection work of, like I said, it's going to sit with like, what is making you unhappy? But also, what are you really good at? I bet you're really good at things every single day. And there's things that you
mm,
love and you're passionate about. So we do that work. And then the second section basically helps them take that self-assessment, and we start to discover together what can you be doing while teaching to help build, because this economy is not the economy to quit a job cold turkey and not have anything lined up if you can.
mm,
And so the best time to find a job is while you have a job. And so we address what can you be doing all along the way as you're prepping. And then we take all of that and we together decide what is the job fit for you.
mm,
What is the company that's right for you? Is it a small startup? Is it a large enterprise? What do you care about when it comes to company culture? And I give them some tips and tricks to try and start assessing company culture.
mm,
So then once they have that list of, roles and industries and companies that they want to go after, then we start to talk about building your personal brand. How are you going to tell your story? And then start building a network. And then
mm,
the third phase, of course, resumes, I think they're like a necessary evil. So we do address the resume. Um, but we basically talk about what are the transferable skills that you have,
mm,
and taking those outcomes you have from teaching and turning them into another language. So that's kind of what I want to culminate with on the teacher side is I hope this resource helps teachers speak a new language, because you do have to speak the language of business, right? You can't talk education because the people you're talking to, the hiring managers can't receive that. They don't know what you're saying. And so it's funny, we're talking about diversity on this podcast. Knowing your audience and being able to speak to them and resonate with them is a big challenge for teachers, because the industries are just so different, right?
mm,
And so I help teachers speak the language of business to get that opportunity. The other side of your question is that I hope you take a chance on teachers and let them stumble through speaking that language, whether
mm,
you're the recruiter, the hiring manager, whether you're, the executive or the leader sitting there doing your capacity planning and saying, oh,
mm,
we're going to need 2 people here, 1 person here, 6 people here. I hope that you pause and think, who else can do these jobs? Because teachers are highly skilled. They're
mm,
not coming into you entry level. This is not their first job. I like to say teachers get early level
mm,
roles in corporate, because they've got multiple degrees usually. They've had hundreds of professional development hours a year. I mean, Andrew, what company is investing hundreds of hours of upskilling into their employee base? Like you just don't see it. You don't see it in the corporate world. And
No.
so teachers have a lot to offer. And so that's my plug, if you
Mm.
will, to businesses is give teachers a chance. They're highly skilled. They're going to thrive. You're going to be blown away at their skill set. And like I said, don't put yourself in an echo chamber thinking you have to hire the same background with the same industry expertise, with the same industry or product experience. Teachers are adaptable. They get handed new grades and new curriculums every year, all the time. This is just a new grade and this is a new curriculum.
Mm. So many golden nuggets there, Ashley. The things that kind of popped out to me is, first of all, you talk about personal brand and networking. I'm a firm believer that, if you build a community and build your brand so strong that Ashley and somebody else is in a room or on the phone talking, and Andrew's name comes up, and they say, "Oh, you know Andrew? Oh yeah, I was on Andrew's podcast. Oh, I was on Andrew's podcast before as well. How cool is that?" And then you're having a conversation about me, but I'm not in the room. So that's exactly what personal branding means to me. Is so I love that you say that the teachers are super important if they want to change their careers and get into something else. You want to have that situation where somebody's talking about you and you're not there. The other thing that I love that you said is thinking about things that you want to do. So if you're a teacher and there's things that because there's things I'm sure that if they want to get out, there's things that they enjoyed about being a teacher and there's things that they didn't enjoy. So I always suggest to people, take a piece of paper, make 2 columns, things you enjoy about your past career, things that you don't enjoy. And then you list all those things. And then when you're looking for a career, anything that says anything about the things that you didn't like, don't apply, because it's just going to be the same story, the same theme, the same ending every single time. You want to look for the things that are in your positive column or the things that you really enjoy. So I guess a lot of things resonated to me, but those are 2 things that stuck out that you said.
Absolutely. And the reason that for teachers, and this is probably anybody who maybe started their first career that it wasn't what they thought, whether you're a data analyst or you went into project management, or like you gave the example, there are HR professionals that are leaving because it's either not what they wanted or it's not how they want it to be. The personal brand is really important because I want to give a confidence boost to those folks. We're getting better at saying we are not our jobs.
Right.
We really are. We're getting better. We're telling people that, or some people are. Some people are hearing it. A lot of people aren't still hearing it though, and they get sucked into that. And so one of the first things that happens when I talk to a teacher, the first question they ask me is, well, how did you do it? It's like, okay, so we'll address that. So I tell them, but then the second is they falter with themselves and they say, well, what can I do? Because I'm just a teacher. And I can't stand that, right? Like, you are not just a teacher. You can do so many things. And I don't think that that's unique to teaching. Like I said, wherever you fall in your early career, you say, well, I don't think I could ever do that because I'm just a this or I'm just a that. And it's like, no, you can be what it is you want to be. And that's that personal brand work. And it's built on the foundation of the reflection work. Like you said, Andrew, like it all kind of coincides. Your personal brand is you, but you use it for your career in business. But you need to think, I encourage teachers to think on that, to build that personal brand, because no, you're not just a teacher. There's a lot of things that you can do, and you can be whatever you want to be. We tell our students that as teachers, oh, you can be anything you want. You could be president. Oh, you want to go to the NBA? Yeah, you can go into the NBA, right? Oh, you want to play in the New York Symphony? Yeah, great. You can totally do it. Practice, work hard. You know, we pump kids up, and then we don't do it for ourselves, right? So work on that personal brand, because you're not just anything, and then you can be what you want. You can make the life you want. You really can.
Ashley, if you could go back and give advice to your 18-year-old self or 8-year-old self, what advice would you give to her?
You know, Andrew, I think in our interactions leading up to this, you could see I have a pretty strong personality. I'm pretty type A, right? Like have always been that way. I'm pretty, very measured and very much risk adverse. And I think that is because I'm actually a highly functioning anxiety person.
Hmm.
And I've always struggled with that, even when I was young. And if I looking back now, which is good timing, I'm going to be 40 soon in a couple years. This is a good like kind of half life to look back. And if I could, I was thinking about this. If I could, I would tell her that things are not going to work out the way that you want them to, or the
Hmm.
way that you imagined, and you're going to be better for it.
Hmm.
That's what I would hope that she would see, because there was a lot of times in college, I went somewhere my freshman year thinking I was going to play softball. I used to really pride myself on being an athlete all through middle school and high school. It was my identity, if you will. And then I went to college to play softball, and it didn't work out the way that I thought it would. And it was kind of crushing. And I was like, okay, so now I'm going to go to this college and I'm going to be a teacher.
Hmm.
Threw all my effort behind being a teacher. And then, 5 years in, it's like, man, this isn't going to work out. And I had a first relationship that was not good for me, that
Hmm.
didn't work out.
Hmm.
And so there was a lot of time through, high school, college, and my 20s that I was like, this is not what I thought life was going to be.
Hmm.
I wanted so much more for myself and my future. And I made changes. Like I said, I feel liberated. I feel like since my career pivot, like I said, my relationships got better, more time with family. A lot of things changed with that. That was a big moment in my life making that decision. And so I would tell 8-year-old Ashley that it is going to be okay. It is going to work out. It's not going to be the way that you think, because life is complex, but it will all be okay. And to chill out a little bit. It'll be all right.
Hmm. Hmm. I love everything that you said there. Um, and I love the fact that you talk about things that are not going to work out, and not everything's going to work out. And I think we realize that as we get older. And you're right. When we're younger, we kind of think, "Oh yeah, this is going to be easy. I'm going to do this, and everything's going to happen. It's going to be super easy, and I'm just going to skate through." And and you realize that things become tougher. And as you get older, it actually becomes even, you know, you hit that stage, and then as you get older it becomes difficult as well. And when relationships change and things change, and I would I love that you stuck with your guns, and when there's lots of things that you've learned along the way, but you adapted. I love the word adapt, and you adapted to every situation that you were in, and look where you are now. You are and a strong human who's giving great advice to people, and so I think you did good for yourself.
Well, thank you. It wasn't always pretty, Andrew. That's the other thing you got to add. It doesn't look the way that you think it's going to look.
No.
And it's not always glamorous and great. But, sticking with it, no one should believe in you the way that you believe in you. You can have support, you can have allies. You need that absolutely in your life, but you have to be the one
Yep.
at the end of the day to know that, like, no, I can do this. I'm going to be all right.
Yep.
It sucks right now, but I'm gonna be different tomorrow.
It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows, is what I
Yeah.
usually, is usually what I say.
Yes.
So. Any final thoughts today, Ashley?
Yeah, just anybody who is looking to make a career change, like I said, whether you're that teacher feeling stuck, or just early on in your career, or even late in your career. I mean, screw that you like only can make change when you're younger. Like
Mm-hmm.
anytime if you're feeling like, hey, this isn't working for me, and you sit with that and you figure out why, um, just go for it. Because like we were just mentioning, no one cares about your career like you do. No
Mm-hmm.
one can care about your future like you can.
Mm-hmm.
Allies, family, friends, significant others, we need a support network 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But you're the one that has to do the work. They can't do it for you. They can
Mm-hmm.
cheerlead you, they can champion you, but you've got to go for it. So
Mm-hmm.
dig deep, find out whatever it is that you do want to change, and make a plan. Like you said, whether it's a kind of a double column of pro and con, or good and bad, or repeat, never repeat list, whatever you want to think of, do that for yourself, and then speak up and go for it. Because the tip, I guess, that I'll leave, it's another little mantra quip that I picked up a long time ago. that I love, and I remind myself of this often, and that is nothing changes if nothing changes.
Mm,
You can't be in a different place in 6 months if you don't make any changes. If you do make changes, you can absolutely be somewhere better in 6 months. And it still may not be where you ultimately want to be, but it's progress. So celebrate that. And like I said, believe in yourself the most, be your biggest champion, be your biggest cheerleader. But just remember, if you stay stagnant, nothing will change if you don't change anything.
mm, mm. I love everything that you said there. I want to take the time to thank you for coming on today, Ashley. You are a remarkable individual. I always talk about passion to people, and I just love the passion that you have for you and for what you do. I always say that you can always hear the passion in someone's voice. So if you're talking to somebody on the phone and you can't see their face, and you can hear the passion in their voice and what they're talking about, is so inspiring to people, and specifically myself. So I was the lucky one today because, for those who are listening, I tape my podcast on video and they come out audio. So I was lucky enough to see the passion for this last 50 minutes in Ashley's face. And I know that you guys are going to hear this the passion in her voice when you're listening to this. She is you're such a super passionate individual, and I just love your care and understanding and for people, and being willing to help them if they're willing to help themselves. I just love that. So thank you for taking the time and spending it with me. It was great.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you so much for those kind words. It means so much, really. Thank you so much for all that. I do. I heard you. I'm going to have a great day all day today because of what you just said. That was
Good.
so kind. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. It's my pleasure. On behalf of myself and my guest, Ashley, I'd like to thank you all for listening today. And until next time, be safe. And remember, everybody, that if we all work together, we can accomplish anything.
You have been listening to Let's Be Diverse with Andrew Stoute. To stay up to date with future content, hit subscribe